Thank you, Eric. And I want to just give a shout out to Megan Dickman-Renard for my coaching, because she informed me that I was not allowed to use presentation slides, and that was freaking me out. And it's still kind of freaking me out. But if you're not disrupting yourself, you're dying. It's something that I have lived with my whole entire life. I saw my grandfather and my uncles, my great uncles, start. Well, I didn't see. I was not born by this point, but I saw them start a hardware business in Brillion, Wisconsin, Brillion Building Supply. And I watched, when I was a teenager, I watched their business basically fall to the ground. And I watched them blame a lot of things. I watched them blame Lowe's Hardware and all of these other bigger conglomerates, Walmart, et cetera. And I didn't really believe it, because I saw other towns. I saw Chilton, and I saw these other towns that had hardware stores. And I was like, well, why did Brilliant Building Supply go away? Not that I wanted to inherit a hardware company, but I just was wondering why, right? And I felt like they stopped innovating in 1972, 4 years before I was born, because the store literally had that look. It had that feel. It felt like someone had given up. And I vowed I would never do that with my business. So I've really embraced the idea of disruption, but I didn't realize how hard disruption is and how much we are tuned to not disrupt our legacy business. And so the example I want to bring up is in 2017. So I started LiveX in 2015. And typically we're going out, we're taking cameras, and we're streaming people's events, right? Or we are building products for people to stream their events. And we hadn't really done remote broadcasting. So, NBC and Fox and some others, ESPN, NFL Network a little bit, had started to deal with this cost savings where they were like, hey, we're doing skiing in the Alps and we send 16 people. What if we only send 9 people to do this show? And so you've probably seen this over time. ESPN and NBC built all these huge facilities in Stamford, Connecticut. And in Stamford, Connecticut, they spend millions, multiple millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars doing point-to-point fiber between this facility and this facility. So now I can send video feeds thousands of miles, but they're paying hundreds of thousands of dollars per feed, right? Maybe $30,000 per one channel. So if there's one camera on me and I'm sending it to a facility, that would cost $30,000 a year just for that camera to go to that other facility. And so in 2017, I saw this presentation. I'd been looking at, IP transport, right? What if you use, instead of using satellites and fiber to transmit and distribute feeds, what if you use the internet? And, having grown up in the internet and having grown up in a streaming company, working for Livestream, we already saw the power of being able to send my finished feed into a server, into the internet, what we now call the cloud. And then that could then distribute across computers, right? We already saw the power of that. But actual distribution, right? This idea that I can send 30 to 40 to 50 to 100 feeds from one location through the internet to another location reliably without it messing up, looking the best quality that it can look, that it would look for television, that really wasn't a thing until around 2014 when NBC and ESPN and NFL Network started to look at this, right? And a technology came around. So on the disruption side, I'm always looking for new toys and new things and new, things we can sell, right? Everybody wants to diversify their business. But when I started looking at remote, I started realizing there's this infrastructure cost and I don't have any business for this thing. I don't have a need. I don't have a compelling reason to go into remote production, right? For us, if I do your show remotely, now you're not renting my gear, you're not using all my people, right? My legacy business is people, labor, equipment. That's how I'm making money, right? Then I'm putting a fee on top of it. But if I do your show remotely, I'm saving you money, but I'm not necessarily doing anything for myself. Case in point. I saw this presentation in Las Vegas, NFL Network, this new technology, SRT, among many other technologies. And I literally left and I was like, this is the future of my business, to my head of production at the time and my one of my partners. This is the future. Remote is the future. Why? Because it really, I can see it. I can see this huge disruption to my business, right? But I can also see how all of my clients that do all these shows all the time and they're spending hundreds of thousands and millions of dollars can save money every time they do a show. So I bit the bullet. I spent $70,000 on a piece of gear. At the time, it's much cheaper now. I spent $70,000 on a piece of gear that I had no business for, zero business. And I eventually convinced the United States Golf Association, of which I was a client, we were doing the US Open. I convinced them, I said, you know what? I think I have a solution for you. Instead of spending $40,000 to $50,000 on the men's and women's junior championship that you have no revenue for, what if you spent $10,000 and we produced everything from your show in Pebble Beach? We transmitted the feeds all the way 3,000 miles to New York at our facility. We didn't send any of our people, so this is 2018 right now I'm talking about, right? And we did it, and instead of it costing you $40,000, we're gonna charge you $10,000. Now, realize at the time, that made me $0. Like, after spending the money on the gear, spending the money on my labor and but I needed a case study. I needed something to prove that I could actually do the same quality on the ground that I was so used to for 15 years, that I could actually do from our facility in New York. And I distinctly remember this moment. So we convinced them to do it. They were like, this is great. We're not really making revenue off this. We'll try it. It's a perfect case study because it's not essential, but we'll tell everybody we're doing it. But let's see how it goes. And in my office in New York, our podcasting room, I'm listening. I hear the show. I hear as if the announcer, so on the set and on the studio in Pebble Beach, it was as if I was in the truck on site. It was incredible. I've never experienced this before. I mean, I have since, but this was the first time where I listened to an announcer on set as if they were in the other room with me, all 6 feeds looking beautiful, none of them breaking up, because like a streaming guy, you're always worried about the internet's crapping the bed or something's really gonna mess up, right? So I've got 6 HD feeds, I've got beautiful audio, I have no issues, I'm making a show, and realize we're 3,000 miles from Pebble Beach to New York City, right? So a lot of things can go wrong. Each video feed has to go through 16 to 20 different servers and network hops, right? And the crazy thing about that moment was we lost money on that job, and it wasn't until really 2 years later, as the pandemic hit, and realize why I say disruption is so important is because you don't know when opportunities are going to happen, and you should never be afraid to see the future and to live in the future. I always tell people I live 2 years in the future, and I don't mean I'm some kind of time traveler, but the unfortunate thing in business is timing. A lot of people get there first, but the world has to catch up. And there were so many things I've done in my business that I've disrupted that didn't pan out. Or oh, hey, we spent 20 grand on that. They don't do that anymore. Oh, Live 360 is not a thing. There's a list, right? There's a list of things that failed or didn't really work. But I remember in 2020, we had a $250,000 event that we already had a contract for signed. The deposit was about to get paid. And I remember them canceling in February. And I remember the moment where I woke up in bed at 4 a.m. and just realizing holy shit, my business might go bankrupt because of this pandemic. I thought it through, but I was I don't know if remote can catch up fast enough. And it was through that disruption, that risk on Pebble Beach, that, hey, we're just gonna do this regardless of the financial outcome, because one, it's the thing that my staff needs to learn. It is the future, it is right now, even if we don't have customers. And that one decision to do Pebble Beach is why I'm standing here, is why this facility exists. It's why we doubled the size of our company within 1 year. The takeaway isn't place a bet and win the bet. I think for me, the takeaway is if you're not disrupting yourself, you're dying. You're not moving forward. You're holding on to a legacy business that might be great, but there's a better way, there's a more innovative way, and there's also there's pitfalls and dangers around the corner, and disrupting yourself allows you to get ahead of those. Thank you.